Tatiana, and I'm working for a company called Amadeus, so we're working with search and travel.
Well, I'm here actually to get some inspiration from people that got started already and succeeded with their ideas.
In this practice, we're going to welcome Nora, who's a good friend of mine, and she's going to be the host of tonight's Fireside Chat with Rikard.
Tell us about the school. Did you think school was important?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I sent me to computing is because I was sitting at home and writing letters because I wasn't very good. But I was probably not very interested in school. I played a lot of role-playing games, didn't have fantastic grades. I remember in Gothenburg, the kids picked on me and they liked hitting me, and etc. And then for some reason we moved to Varberg on the west coast of Sweden. And then you basically, you know, when you change jobs or school or location, you get a chance to rebrand yourself, right? So you're in this box and now you're in a new settings. You know that no one is going to pick on me anymore, which means that anyone try to do that, you know, I'll push back. And then you get different kind of confidence, and also you get a different kind of respect, and that sort of fueled that self-confidence that I probably didn't have before. So in Varberg, people didn't push me around. But I think that, you know, school, I had an easy life in terms of picking things up. I didn't really care. But I think that I went to Chalmers and Handels. So in the late 80s, it was very popular to have cross-science educations, so tvärvetenskapliga utbildningar. So suddenly you couldn't just be a business school student or an engineer, you had to be like a computer economist. So you had to like study 1 year at Handels, 1 year at, as an engineer, and then you should sort of pick your path. So I studied something called systemvetenskaplig linje, which was sort of information technology. Very fluffy bunny kind of thing. And I actually at the time had already started my first software company, Solvex Data, which basically made software for, we did it for Statoil. You know, in those days, in the 1987, when you rented videos, you actually had to rent the video as well. Because people didn't have videos in those days. So it was called the movie box. I'm not kidding. So you rented the movie box and the video, which was this big. And then my software basically printed out the invoice, but it also kept track on which movies people rented or not, so that the guys in the store could basically send away the ones that didn't work. So. And then we did some other computer software. But so I started programming very early, and I think I picked it up probably when I was 15. I started teaching software programming. It was like BASIC and Pascal and Assembler. We were hacking these games for Commodore VIC-20 and Commodore 64 and ABC-80 and ZX Spectrum and all these like early computer things.
Did you do this by yourself?
Sorry?
Did you do this by yourself?
Yeah, I think Solveig Data was interesting. I had a partner in crime called Jörgen Warborn. We were partying most of the time, and for some mysterious reason, he's like a borgmästare. He's like the mayor in Varberg today, which is like unbelievable. I hope he becomes like the president of Sweden, because then I could get everything. I mean, I know so much stuff about the guy. That would be fabulous. But anyway, so. At Chalmers, then at one of these bus stops, I fell in love with this girl, Annika, who's my wife now. We've been together for 25 years. For 25 years. And if she was here, she will tell me that it has been such a smooth ride, with no problems whatsoever. But anyway, and she was a super student, which I wasn't, and she went to industrial economy, which was the most prestigious thing, and she graduated as sort of number one, and then she went in to do a PhD in innovation management. So she's clearly much smarter than I am. But she motivated me to actually pick up studies, and I met another friend called Stefan Lindholm, who was the guy from Handels, you know, the smart guy who had suits when he was studying and tie. And he said that there's something called the Junior Chamber of Commerce. you have to join. And then to join, you have to make one of these projects. And the project was to look at MBA educations around the world. And then I discovered, shit, I have to get an MBA. I mean, I'm a computer nerd. I have to get into business. So I applied for a couple of schools. I got into Stockholm in Italy. And I realized that when I got there, I thought that, if these soccer guys, the Swedish soccer guys, can go to Italy for a season, play some soccer, they learn Italian, allora adesso parliamo solo italiano, no problem. I could do that as well. What I didn't realize was that everyone who went to that school, they had already done Handels, and they were the top students from everywhere in the world. And the only reason I got in was that I was on this little quota of 10% of people who were elite bicycles persons, or computer nerds, or they were a tennis pro or something. I got in on this quota, which means I didn't know shit. And they had already done Handels. I didn't know what marketing was at that time, or finance, or I had no idea. But I had put my grandma in the pawn shop and sold everything. I remember I sold my CDs to my wife, which she occasionally tells me, because we truly didn't have any money. So I was kind of motivated. And to understand this, the school where people have out of scholarship, they were seriously rich, they would say, it's better to study at the French Riviera over the weekend. And I was like, do you want to come? And I was like, no. It was not happening. But so I was motivated, but I graduated number 1 in the class. I got a gold medal. My mom was crying, and voila, there you go. So.
And afterwards school.
Yeah, after school. So you're there, and then suddenly I am like my friend Stefan Lindholm. I'm also having a tie now because I'm from Stockholm. I'm talking to McKinsey. I'm talking to all these different companies, and they basically came to school. So this was in 1993, and a finance guy was speculating against the Swedish currency, and the interest rate in Sweden at this time was 500%. So Sweden was in big trouble. If you had loans, that was not a good thing to have 500% interest rate. But I got a job with Procter Gamble. And first I got a job in Rome, and I tried to convince my now wife to go there, but she was tall, blonde, thin, with long hair, and people didn't take her seriously. They just looked at her ass, essentially. So she didn't think that was a place she could make a career because people didn't take her seriously. So got a job in Stockholm, and met Michael Grennes, who's also here today, who I started a company with later on. But Procter & Gamble, I worked with diapers. I knew everything about diapers. I was proud to work with diapers. My friends in the bar, I would tell them about these micro-absorbent things we have in diapers. And if someone said that Libero was a better diaper, I would get furious, because that wasn't true. Now, I know much more about diapers, and what a shitty business it is. So anyway, so when you have kids, you learn what it's really about. But I learned about marketing essentially at Procter & Gamble. I was there for 2 years, and I realized that it's a great company, it's a great school, they teach you everything. And what's interesting with Procter & Gamble and these big companies is that it's built like a pyramid structure, which means that your boss had your job before you, and their boss had their job before you. So it's basically, I was running marketing for Pampers for Sweden and Denmark, which like a job you wouldn't give to someone who doesn't have a clue about marketing. But just because you have the structure where your boss had it before, so it's sort of an up or out sort of structure. So it was a very great school. I learned a lot about marketing, but then I realized that maybe diapers isn't my life. So at Telia at the time, this is in the mid-90s, this is sort of early internet days, and Telia wanted to build a multimedia department. So multimedia was the hot thing. And this is the year when Swedish politicians said that internet is just a fluke and it's going to pass. People think it's hot, but it's not. So I got a job with Telia to start a multimedia department because I knew marketing and sales a little bit, and then I had some technology background. And multimedia at that time was CD-ROMs, it was multimedia kiosks, and video conferencing over PC. So that is what we sold at Telia at the time. And then what happened is I got dragged into this whole internet boom. So I was one of the few people at the time who knew about the internet, knew about multimedia, and America Online was having its splash in the US at the time. So of course all the smart people in Scandinavia were thinking, America Online, what should we do here in Scandinavia? Scandinavia Online. So Telenor and Schibsted and Telia basically started Scandinavia Online, which was basically selling access and also starting a lot of online services. So that was very interesting. And just to give you a feel for at the time, how many here remember Alta Vista? Yeah, so everyone, okay. So we saw, just to understand how bad we were at the time, we saw that this search thing is really, really hot. And the Alta Vista guys, they were smart American guys, so they told us, well, you can have it for free. You can have search in Alta Vista in the Nordics for free. No worries. You just pay us a little bit every time someone search. Just a tiny, tiny thing. And then, you're going to show banners. And you're going to make money from those banners, and that money is going to be so much more than what we're going to charge you guys. So we're going to give it to you. That didn't work very well. So of course, banner advertising in 1995, that wasn't that mature. And of course, people started searching like crazy. So of course, we lost a lot of money. And then and then we had Norwegians in the management, Schibsted, brilliant guys. But then they came, we'll build our own search engine. Kvasir. So I think actually it's still there somewhere in Norway. In Bergen, I think, where Lillehammer or something. But it didn't work so well. So what's interesting with the journey is that we started basically a lot of internet services. Some of them are still around, maybe Bilweb or Resfeber. They started classifieds. We started gaming services. Some of them worked really well and are sort of still around. Some of them were far too early. I remember one deal we had was we got a deal with, I think it was Svenska Spel or something. And then we got a deal with Aftonbladet, sports. And then said, well, they basically offered we could be the exclusive partner to do betting online together with content from Aftonbladet because we had Schibsted. And then the management say, no, we don't think that sports betting is going to be big online, so let's not do that.
And I'm interested in knowing what made you leave this world, and go to Google.
So basically, after Scandinavia, I started a strategy consulting company with Michael Grennes, who's here, and some other people. And we had a fabulous ride. We started up with venture capital. They thought of us because we were going to revolutionize digital TV, web TV. What happened was that this was in 1999. You were invincible. People were thinking that WAP would be the best thing since sliced bread. But that it all sort of fell down. But what saved us, our consulting company, was basically that we hired a guy who's Martin Teveus, who's the CEO of Avanza Bank today. He came from SAS Eurobonus. He knew how to build relationships over the internet. So even if people didn't want to do .coms anymore, they want to build relationship over the internet, both to sell, but also to customer service and create loyalty online. So we built basically a big thing for Nokia. But anyway, so I did that for 7 years. And if you're CEO of a strategy consulting company for 7 years, you are meeting 3 to 5 customers every day. And typically like CEOs or just below. So if you meet 3 to 5 customers every day for 7 years, you meet a lot of people. And you do a lot of selling. And I think when we got our first kid, I realized that I'd done a lot of selling. I didn't want to be a consultant for the rest of my life. I want to do something different. So I went on paternity leave for 8 months, and I was a latte papa. Latte papa are guys who don't really have a job, go drink cafe latte with their friends, and then talk about their ideas that probably they're not going to do. So, and I remember at the time, Carl Klingberg, he told me that, you know, there's this company called Lunarstorm. It's big social media stuff. You should talk to them. So I was interviewing to sort of run Lunarstorm at the time. This was in 2006. And then a headhunter called and said, well, there's this company in London called Google. They need someone to run marketing for all the products in Europe. And I was like, what should I do? And I was seriously considering both of them. But I got into Google, and we were moving to London. I had a young daughter at the time. Found this fabulous place in the central London, just by the water, one of those big glass buildings next to a park, next to the daycare. I could walk to work in London, no tube, no nothing. It was perfect. And then a month in, my wife told me, Rikard, we talked about London, but we never actually agreed. Okay. So I told my boss that we have a problem. And luckily they were highly motivated, I didn't say desperate, but highly motivated to have someone for this job. They looked for someone forever. So, and there was a Stockholm office at Google, so I could do Mondays and Friday out of Stockholm, and then the rest in London. So if anyone is thinking about commuting between Stockholm and London for 2.5 years, I wouldn't recommend it. When the airline hostesses knows your name, it's not a good thing.
Okay, so let's talk about MTGx.
Yes, let's talk about MTGx. So hand up here, how many know what MTG is? So some, very good. Yeah, when I didn't know that much about MTG when I joined, so I looked up and I found out that actually MTG has 60 branded TV channels across 36 markets. We're on 4 continents. We have over 100 million people watching our content, and we're like a TV operator, but like Viasat and Viaplay, but also we're reaching like millions of people through other operators like cable. So in Russia, for example, we're reaching some 80, 90 million people through other players as well. And then we have production companies. So I think we have some 28 companies in 16 countries who are producing content. And then we have lots of digital services, we have radio. So it's a big media company. And what's really interesting there is that the company is big here in the Nordics with TV3, 6, 8 and things like that. But actually we're investing in Eastern Europe and Russia and in Africa. And the idea here is that you go in really early in the market and you build a strong position. So in Eastern Europe it might be, 3 to 5 years too early, and in Africa it might be 5 to 10 years too early. But if you go in early, you can build a strong position. So when a Big Mac and company costs as much as it does downtown Stockholm, voila, then you have a strong position. So we're investing early on. And then also what we realized, and actually the new CEO who joined last year, Jørgen Madsen, he's like a Danish soccer coach. And he probably realized that he needed, a Zlatan over there or a big sort of guard for the goal. So he put me in. And one of the things he does, which I really like, is that he goes on a roadshow, which means that you go to 10 countries in 3 days. And then you meet the extended management team in every country. And you talk a little bit of what's going on, and you get Q&A. And then you think 10 countries in 3 days and meetings. So it's kind of that kind of trip. But one of the things I learned, I did this the second week I was there, and then I learned that what MTG is all about. So I asked people from TV channels, what is it that MTG does? And I asked people from satellite or from radio, from production companies. They all said different things. But I realized that what we actually do is that we connect people with the things they love the most. So it might be sports for some of you with the Olympics, or it might be movies, it might be music, but it's some kind of entertainment. And the reason you watch this is because you love it. And we've been doing a great job of connecting you through broadcasting one-to-many, or through radio one-to-many. But now the world is digital. So there are opportunities to have much richer experience where you can basically share those experiences with your friends, or you can meet new friends who share your passion. So my job now as CDO, password, Chief Digital Officer, is to basically, how can we take this great media group into the future to become a digital interactive media group? So that's the job now. So we're starting everything from video on demand services to new music services to things in gaming and esports, to second screen services, to commerce services, to new ways to experience verticals like food or fashion. And we do that on our own platforms, but we also invest in other platforms like Splay, which is the leading YouTube network here in Sweden, for example. And the reason we're here at Sub 46 is that we figured out that we don't have to invent all these new services ourselves, because there's a bunch of talented people, there's a bunch of startups here who would need our help to get those services up and running. So when I was in California, I met a lot of these startups that were pitching to Google. And now I find that I'm at MTG, I'm pitching to startups. And the pitch is essentially that if you are this Californian dating company who has this new mobile social video dating service, I can take that service to Nordics, Baltics, Eastern Europe, Russia, 10 new markets, because I have the shows, if it's Paradise Hotel or Ensam Mamma Hemma or whatever relationship programs there are, I have access to the audience who need love, and I have access to the advertisers who want to reach that audience. I have production companies who can do a new dating show related to, so I can accelerate that startup into new, but I can do that in music, in sports, in gaming, etc. So what we've done is that we partner up with startups like yourself here, but we do this in London, we do this in Manchester, we do this in San Francisco, so that we, when hopefully you have this great idea in sports, and we have Champions League, Premier League, Olympics, everything, you will think of us as a potential partner to accelerate your startups. So that's how we fit into this thing. We want to help accelerate your startup ideas, and then also we have $1 billion in the bank and no loan, so we can invest some money as well. So that's the pitch.
And what about your personal life?
My personal life. Yes.
You mentioned Annika earlier, and she has a doctorate degree.
Yeah, so my wife, she's super successful. She's a PhD in innovation management. She basically advises companies to become more innovative. And she just releasing a book called the Google Model. She studied Google. She looked at Spotify. She looked at Facebook. She looked at different companies. So she's doing a lot of lecturing and sort of strategy consulting. So there's busy lives. We have the 2 young daughters, 4 and 8. And it's difficult to make this work, for sure.
How do you balance your life, work, and your both careers?
I'm not sure we do that very well. But so a day works that I'll take the kids to school in the morning, and then do work, and then try to go home and have dinner, and then put them to sleep, and then hopefully we have no work, or we work, and then no work during the weekends. So that's most of the weekends, at least. Yeah, but I think the people who know me, I probably unconsciously work all the time. And typically as an entrepreneur and as a startup person, you feel that you're like one with this thing. And that was one of the things I didn't like being running a strategy consulting company, because if you're selling all the time, then you start selling on your free time as well. So you sit with your friends and say, so you have a problem. Yeah. Let me help you with it. I was like, stop, no. So you want to have your own time. But I think that the key to success is being sort of authentic and being doing things you really love to do. And if you do that, then you'll eventually become very good at it. And then it's worth it. And then, I think that's That's the key thing, and then you can do a little extra work because it's not really work. It's like something you like to do. Are you nodding now? You're nodding now. Yeah, I can see that. Good.
Yeah, I'm already there. It's all about the connections and the X factor.
Yes, the X factor.
The X factor. And how will you attract the best people to MTGx?
Yeah, so I learned very early on that the best people want to work for the best people. So you know, I don't think that a lot of developers were thinking to join Modern Times Group, you know, a year ago. But if you hire the best people from Google, so I had Anil Hanji, he's here, he ran M&A for Google for many years. If you hire people from top people from Facebook or from Spotify or from some of these companies, then people you get noticed. And then if you deliver cool stuff, if you put out the latest video on demand service, the second screen stuff, some social commerce things, and then you sit here at SUP 46 and talk about space, well, then people think, I don't really know what they're doing, but it seems really exciting, so I'm going to check it out. And then, you know, I got you right. So, and then you're curious, and that's all you can say. Then you need to deliver. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but anyway, so X Factor, so MTGx, it's basically MTG, but it's people with the X Factor. X Factor meaning people with a special talent. X being sort of the variable in the equation that radically changes the outcome. So getting people who can actually make it happen. So those are the ones we're hiring.
And what about your survival skills? Both
My survival skills?
Yeah, as an individual, but also as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I was thinking if this MTGx doesn't work, I'll do raw stand-up comedy. I think that's what I figured out today. I was like, shit, there's a plan B. So yeah, no, I think that we're just talking in the break here. I think that, you know, I'm sort of plus 40. Some of you are like wannabes. I'm part of the used to be's. But you realize that I still have no idea what I want to do. You're still on this journey. So don't despair if you don't know what you're going to do, because you never will be. And once you figure it out, you're just going to say, there's something over there. So the key thing here is that the smarter you are, the less likely you are going to do a startup, because you're too smart. So you're figuring out, you're over-analyzing things. So we're just talking to someone in the break here. It's like, just do it. You just have to do it. And trust in that this is something you really think is fun. And if you really think it's fun, eventually you become very good at it. And if you become very good at it, you know, you're going to make some money out of it somehow. You may not have figured it out right now, but you will. And yeah, so that's the... So I remember when we started the strategy consulting company called Digiscope, we were going to do interactive TV in 1999 or something. And me and Michael Granis, who's here, if we would look at the business plan now, you know, there wasn't like anything correct there. Nothing of that in that plan happened really. Yeah, so you just have to jump, and then you'll figure it out. And if you have the right people, the superstars, improvise, adapt, overcome. You'll make it. If you have the wrong people, then you'll fail. So.
But how did you find your way out of trouble?
How did I find my way?
Out of trouble.
Out of trouble. So actually I had a guy just now this week telling me that he wanted to do a startup. And I think that one of my survival skills, he said that, Rikard, when there's a tsunami coming, you're the first guy on a sort of a surfboard. And I think that having this ability to always look positive and always see opportunities in when it's like really, really difficult, I think having that skill, I think is important. And I think because if it's really, really difficult, that's great, because it will be very hard for everyone else as well. And then you're more likely to succeed. So I think it's having that kind of attitude, and I think also pushing through, because if you really, really like what you do, then you're going to persist when it's really hard. And then, you know, not everyone is going to do that. But if you do that, then you'll come out on the other end. So I think the worst thing is probably when you don't have money, that's tough because there gives you limitations. So I think there are some situations where you're sort of close to bankruptcy, and I think that's very, very hard. And at the Women in Technology, actually, there was a very good friend of mine, Christopher. He went bankrupt with one of his startups, which is like really hard. How do you do that? How do you get out of that? And he told a trick how to manage it. Are you interested now?
Please tell us.
So he basically said, I pretend that I'm not me anymore, and that I'm this imaginary friend sitting on the side looking at me. And then I'm thinking, if I was that guy, what would I do? So you distance yourself from your own situation to be a little more objective and not get sort of caught in the emotional trauma that you're in. And actually, it turns out that this is like a Dr. Phil kind of technique, where you actually can, So when you're having economic distress, or your boyfriend, girlfriend just broke up with you, or they hate you at work, just pretend it's not you. And you're this imaginary friend, and you can give yourself advice. So that's how you do it.
And just the last thing about passion. Why is passion that important to you?
Yeah, so I wanted to show this Steve Jobs clip. So maybe we can, if we can roll down the curtain there, I'll talk.
Här.
So,
Här.
so the thing is that there are a couple of things that are really important to be successful. And I do think that if you're really passionate about something, if you're like a little bit crazy and you really want to make something happen, then you'll persist, then you'll succeed, then you'll learn the things that are needed.
So we're hosting tonight's event. Rikard Steiber is our CDO, and we're here today to sort of give a view to the startup community, who we are all about, what we do as an investor, as a media partner.